And why you so surprised? And when I said I miss you, never believed me. And we were so depressive. You and me together, we were jamming our feet. And we were so depressive. We were so depressive. We were so depressive. Hey, and to think you would get me to the altar. Like I follow you around like a dog that needs water. But admit that you wanted me smaller. If you would've let me grow, you could've kept my Thank you would get me to the altar. Like I follow you around like a dog that needs water. But admitted that you wanted a smile. If you would've let me grow, you could've kept my love. And to think you would get me to the altar. Like I follow you around like a dog that needs water. But admitted that you wanted me smaller. If you would've let me grow, you could've kept my love.
Waiting for the break of day, searching for something to say, flashing lights against the sky, giving up, I close my eyes, sitting cross-legged on the floor.
Microban 24 protects against Staphylococcus aureus and Enterobacter viruses. Every time you touch a surface, you leave behind bacteria. Use Microban. Touch after touch, it doesn't give up.
But now, he
We come into this world unknown, but know that we are not alone. They try to knock us down, but change is coming. It's our time now.
Hey, everybody loses it. Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes. And hey, yeah, I know what you're going through. Don't let it get the best of you. You'll make it out alive. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us.
Hey, this is not a funeral, it's a revolution after all. Your tears have turned to rage. Just wait, everything will be okay. Even when you're feeling like you're going down in flames. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom.
We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. They can't do nothing to you, they can't do nothing to me. This is the life that we choose, this is the life that we lead. So throw your fists in the air, come out if you dare. Tonight we're gonna change forever. Everybody loses it.
Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes.
Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when Turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us.
It's UUCC Zoom-In Live with special guest Lou Salza. Here's your host, David Kantor, with co-host Will Barrett.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Glad to be with you tonight on the 20th episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live. Please welcome my co-host, Will Barrett. Hey, Will, how you doing tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. And yourself?
I'm doing great, thanks. But, you know, big news in UUCC land with our having recently called a new parish minister, Randy Partain, who will be with us in a couple of months. So that's big news for us. So we're all pretty excited about that. And we're also, of course, we're very excited about our guest tonight, although some of us wonder, of course, about whether that's really Lou Salza or Bob Horan on tonight, given the emails that went out. So I'll have to say in a little while whether, in fact, it's Lou or Bob that's here, or, as we were talking about before, whether or not we come to the conclusion that Lou and Bob are actually the same person. So, you know,
the world may never know.
Same number of letters in their first name, same number of letters in their last name. You never see them together. So, you know, so there's always that thing to wonder about. So we'll find out in just a little while. But, you know, so we have that big news about Randy coming on board in a couple of months. But you have other really big news, you know, because we're planning another virtual UUCC game night. And we have Allison Bash with us to share a few of the details. So, Allison, how are you doing tonight? I guess Allison doesn't want to. Allison, you have to unmute yourself.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you are. That's good to hear.
I am. Yes, I'm doing great. Thanks, David.
So maybe I'll regret having unmuted you, but we'll find that out in a minute. So, Allison,
who knows?
Right here. Yeah, that's right. But Allison can't tell. So, Allison, I hear we're having another game night coming up. You want to tell the audience a little bit about that?
We are, and we're really excited about it. We're going to play Jeopardy, and we're going to play Two Truths and a Lie, and everybody gets to play. So that'll be fun. And then we also have Family Feud, 2 rounds of Family Feud. So lots of fun, lots of laughs, good time.
So is Family Feud supposed to reflect your relationship with Claudia? Is that what we're doing that for?
No, it's completely different than that. It's questions that are asked of a studio audience and what the majority of the audience says. So
got it. So when is this game night, Allison?
When it's on Saturday, the 19th is coming up Saturday at 7:00, from 7 till 9, pretty much the scope of the time.
How will people be able to get their entry ticket for this?
Well, there is going to be a link in the next UUCC newsletter. So watch for that and the announcement about game night. And if
Great.
you don't receive the announcement or you have any questions, I can put in the chat my phone number or email so somebody can email me or call and I'll send them the link.
Outstanding. Allison, thanks for that update, and thanks for announcing game night for us, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thanks.
Okay, see you on Saturday. Hope see everybody.
Thank you. So a quick reminder, everybody, if you've not already done so, please use the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen to announce yourself. Make sure to send it to everybody and not just the panelists, okay? Because your fellow congregants want to know that you are here.
And if you've been here with us before, thank you for coming back. We know you're here for me and not for David, of course. But if this is your first time here with us, we're glad you're here, and we hope this becomes a constant every couple of weeks. And if you're enjoying yourself, please invite your UUCC friends to come. You know, the more the merrier. And before we move on, if you missed any past episodes, specifically my episode, not all, most of the episodes are available on the UUCC YouTube channel, as due to some copyright issues regarding the music, some of the episodes have not yet been posted. So look out for those episodes when they are posted.
So, Will, you know, I hate to break this to you, but most of our audience isn't here to see you or me. They're actually here to listen to Jack and hear from our guests. I just want to make sure we're clear about this. Just before you become too much of a legend in your own mind. Let's be clear about that. But speaking of Jack, established the Jack Ullman comedy moment to hear some jokes from Jack. And so Jack's jokes are the one guaranteed moment of levity on the show. So everybody, please welcome Jack Ullman. Jack.
Good evening, David, and good evening, Will. It is indeed a pleasure to join you once again for the 20th time with a little humor. In honor of our guest, retired headmaster Lou Salza, I have a few educator jokes. First, why did the headmaster fire the cross-eyed math teacher? Because she couldn't control her pupils. What's the difference between a headmaster and a train? The headmaster says, spit out that gum. The train says, chew, 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 chew. Now, those are two jokes that are safe for your grandkids. Our main story, however, is a bit adult. So if you have children or an especially slow husband in the room, please use your discretion. A young woman struggling with depression seeks the help of a psychiatrist. She takes a seat, but she doesn't say a word. The psychiatrist suggests that she explain her problem so that he can help her find a solution. She says, I know you're going to laugh. He replies, Madam, I have practiced psychiatry for 30 years, and I've never laughed at a patient's concerns. Well, please tell me what is troubling you so we can work together to find a solution. Well, she said, I've been married 3 times, and I'm still a virgin. Unusual, said the doctor. Please explain. Well, she said, in college, I fell in love with my philosophy professor, a dear man in his 80s. We had a beautiful platonic relationship, but we never physically consummated the marriage. After 6 months, we parted amicably. In my desire to find happiness, I married the first man who came along. He turned out to be an alcoholic, and while he was very romantic, he couldn't perform. I left him after 6 frustrating weeks. The psychiatrist asked, sad but understandable, what about husband number 3? Well, she says he's the headmaster of a fine private school, and he just sits on the edge of the bed and tells me how good it's going to be. Well, that's it for Jack's jokes. Back to you, David and Will.
Thanks, Jack. By the way, some of you may know that Jack is a man of many interests, rock and roll being one of them. And Jack poked at me the other day because I've never asked him for a music suggestion for the show. You likely know by now that my co-host, Will, or Claudia Victoroff, and our special guest each pick a song for each episode. But I've never asked Jack, despite his rock and roll expertise. So tonight's closing song will be a selection by Jack. I'm going to be clear here. Jack chose the song. Jack is not singing the song, so please don't run away. Our special guest tonight, if he's still here, is Lou Salza, a master communicator both in writing and in the spoken word. Many of you may know Lou as, oh yeah, that's Dell's husband. But Lou is a mega active member of our congregation in his own right. He served on our Ministerial Search Task Force. He co-chaired this year's Stewardship campaign. He's a member of our Finance Committee, and he's active in our Permaculture Garden and Men's Covenant group. His life journey has taken him far and wide, and we'll let him tell us about that tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm UUCC welcome to Lou Salza. And it is Lou Salza. Son of a gun, you're actually here. Hello, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I was doing better until I heard those jokes about educators. Jack is a funny man.
Jack is great. And I tell you what, I've said this before, Jack has a wealth, I say a wealth of really, really funny jokes that unfortunately are and X-rated, and therefore we can't tell them on the show. But oftentimes when I talk to Jack to make sure he'll be with us for our upcoming episode and tell him what's going on, he'll share one or two with me, and you think these jokes are funny. The ones he tells you then are even funnier. So thank you very much, Jack. I'm glad you like them, Lou. So Lou, I want to know about, get us started here, about your COVID experience. So when did you receive your vaccinations? How's all that worked out for you? Tell me about that a little bit.
We got our vaccinations. We got the Moderna vaccination, right on time with everybody our age. And we were able to travel and hug all our grandchildren in May. But we were pretty sequestered at home before that.
So I was going to ask.
But we were fine. We really love our house. We love our neighborhood. We're close to the church, and we did everything on Zoom, or we just worked in our garden. It was great.
So, all right. So you've already told us a little bit, but tell us what you're doing differently now that you've been vaccinated that you weren't doing earlier in COVID when you were before vaccines were available.
Yeah. Well, we traveled to our house in New Hampshire for the first time in a year and a half. And that was great. And we traveled in May to South Carolina to see Elise and Nina. And we traveled to Tacoma Park to see Leah and our other 3 grandchildren. And our grandchild, Sarah, who's a MDiv student at BU, came to our house with her friend and stayed with us. So we feel like we're getting back to a kind of a normal, and we really like the personal contact. We missed that terribly, over the last year and a half, and that's been great. We're here now in New Hampshire. Dell and I are with our grandson, Desi, who's finishing up his school year on Zoom, and he's going to be here for the week with us, and we just love that.
That's great. Will?
All right. So let's get into a little more of your personal history. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, if you're not originally from Ohio, and give us a little more insight about your family structure when growing up.
Okay, so I was born on the corner of Brooks and Saratoga. A corner, for you guys in the Midwest, is an intersection of 2 streets. And Brooks and Saratoga is in the heart of East Boston, which is kind of like an Italian enclave. At least it was 100 years ago when I was born there. And it's an interesting place because I have a small family. I have just 2 brothers, but my mother and father come from families of 8 and 7 respectively. So I started out with 32 first cousins, and they all lived within a fairly small radius of blocks in East Boston. And then my family moved to Lexington, where in the 7th grade, Dell was in my homeroom. And by that point, I was beginning to learn how to read finally, because all through school, I could not learn how to read the way they were teaching people to read. When I got to 1st grade, everybody knew the letter people. I didn't know their names. I didn't know what they said. So I really couldn't read. I still can't spell very well. Dell helps me with all of that stuff. Education was a bumpy road, but I sat next to Kathy Watson in the 1st grade. Kathy Watson was everyone thought she was the smartest kid in school, at least in the 1st grade. And I sat right next to her, and she left all her papers on her desk for me to see, Will, so that, I could kind of get through the day. And, I collaborated with her. I learned right in 1st grade the value of collaboration to high performance. And I just decided, well, from now on, I got to sit next to the smartest girl in class, no matter where I am, what year. And in the 7th grade, I got to see Dell. I didn't get to talk to her because she always hung around with very intelligent kids who could read. I couldn't. But I did learn how to play the guitar. And by the time I was in the 10th grade, I was playing in a band, and I had a certain ability to move in circles beyond, kids who were getting remedial reading classes. So I finally got to meet her, and actually met her and got into a battle, a civil rights argument, which she's still working on me for. That was many, many years ago. So we've known each other a long time.
All right. Speaking of education, what did you go to college, and what did you major in, or what career path did you want to take specifically?
So Dell has been kind of a heroic presence in my life since I was a kid. And she wanted to be a teacher, so I decided I probably wanted to be a teacher too. I went to UMass It was the only college that would accept me. I applied to 3, 2 rejected me, UMass accepted me.
Is that in Amherst, Lou?
Yes, UMass Amherst. And it took me almost 6 years to graduate. And I never say I graduated. I tell people I escaped from UMass with a degree, and when no one was looking. And I followed Dell into teaching. And our first teaching post was in Philadelphia, Center City, Philadelphia, at the Parkway program. Very exciting, kind of innovative school without walls at the time. And we just loved it there, but we got laid off. And then we moved back to Massachusetts, where I started working in a school for kids with dyslexia, where my little brother was going to school. And I interviewed with the headmaster there and found out why I was having trouble as a kid learning how to read. I never related what was going on with my brother to my experience, but that's when I got identified with dyslexia, ADHD, and the kind of learning differences that I have made my career about. And I had the opportunity to go to graduate school. I applied to 3, 2 rejected me. I went to the only one who would accept me. That was Harvard University, ironically. And Dell went to Harvard, and so did our elder daughter, Leah. So I got to study reading with Jean Chall. It was really a remarkable opportunity. I feel really lucky to have had that opportunity.
From not knowing how to read to going to Harvard, that's a pretty fascinating journey. I do say so.
Yeah, well, there's a saying about colleges in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There's MIT, where really smart people, who do mathematics and computer modeling and systems analysis and all that stuff, and then Harvard University. But the joke goes that you're standing in the grocery line at the express counter, and it says that there's a limit of 10 items on that counter, and a very annoyed clerk is looking at some guy who's got way more than 10 things on the counter, and she says, "All right, let's see, you go to Harvard and you can't count, or you go to MIT and you can't read?"
Will,
that's for Jack, about educators.
I've never heard that before, but I'll keep that in mind next time I see ostentatious Ivy League students. But since this is a program through the UUCC, it's only fair to ask questions about religion. So what was your religious experience like growing up? What religion did your family practice? And did you go to church routinely? Was it a major part of your life?
Yeah, I was brought up Catholic, and I'm still recovering from that. And the UU congregation is helping me with that. Dell and my daughters helped me with that. Growing up Catholic can really leave some scars. Leaves you with a lot of guilt, and I always wound up getting whacked on the head by a nun who was impatient with me either not paying attention or paying too much attention to the people around me. But at the same time, I always appreciated the fact that they were, trying to help us, in whatever way they were. And I never, ever wanted them to call home, because if they called home about something that I was doing, I was in deep, deep yogurt. Yeah. So Catholicism is what I've been recovering from for many, many years. I stopped going to church when I was a kid. But around 7th or 8th grade, I just said, I've had enough. But up to that point, I went to church every Sunday, and I went to what's called Christian doctrine classes, where you have to memorize catechism. And I'm an educator who's been protesting against memorization, high stakes tests, grades, and homework. None of those things are measures of any kind of academic rigor, and they don't contribute much to learning. And all of those things were part of Catholicism when I was growing up, and I just had to reject it. The other thing I'll say about education, Will, is I never let school interfere with my education. And that comes straight from Mark Twain, and I thought it was just brilliant that we not let whatever they're doing to us in school force us into thinking of those things as learning, because they really weren't for the most part.
As an education major myself, I hold these exact same sentiments. So yes, I definitely agree.
Oh, I'm glad to hear you're in education, because we need you. Think about the year we've just had, and how many kids have been just suffering because they haven't been able to go to school. They haven't been able to see their friends, and that's why they go to school. And the thing I would say to parents about, what they focus on with kids is that everybody thinks it's those academic tests and those test scores that matter when kids are going to school. But actually, what predicts adult civic engagement and career success is participation in extracurricular activities when you're in high school and college. So it's, things like the drama club, or sports activities, or hobbies that you develop with other people. Those are the things that float your boat as an adult, not whether or not you got A's or B's or C's. And I swear I got a lot of D's, but I decided that stood for degree. And I have no argument with D's.
So, Lou, I know that you're retired now, but it would be interesting for you to give our audience the Reader's Digest version of your work life and talk about how you ultimately ended up here in Cleveland. But I emphasize the Reader's Digest version. You still have a lot of ground to cover with you. So tell us how this worked out.
Well, I started teaching in Philadelphia. I got laid off, went to Landmark School, became a tutor and a teacher, started doing administrative work there. And then 14 years after that, I left Landmark and became a vice principal in charge of vice at a public senior high school in Massachusetts, at the Hamilton Wenham Regional High School. And I was there for 8 years. Both my daughters graduated there. They were very resentful of the fact that their father was the assistant principal and knew everybody that they were friends or not friends with. But I got recruited by a headhunter to head a school in Hawaii. I mean, it's the most outlandish, sort of out of the blue thing you can imagine. They flew us to Hawaii. Dell and I decided we would take a chance and do that. That was the same year we became empty nesters. And I stayed there for 11 years. It was a wonderful experience. I learned a lot. This Boston guy learned how to talk softly and wear loud shirts. And then I got, at some point, we decided that around 2005, our daughters were married in the same summer. And I think I sent my sons-in-law a picture of me playing with an 18-month-old kid that belonged to one of our teachers. And I told the boys, hey, I understand you can make one of these with stuff you can find around the house. Yeah. We had, so we had to get back to the contiguous 40, and I got recruited that same headhunter to come to Cleveland, the Lawrence group for kids in senior high school. The only school like that in the country at the time.
You broke up there a little bit. Repeat the last couple of sentences.
I'm sorry?
You broke up.
Yeah, I got to Lawrence School, where the board had built a school exclusively for kids with dyslexia and ADHD, which was my main interest, and at the high school level. So that was really fabulous. And I spent 11 years there, and I retired in 2018. I'm retired now. I was retired before, and I'm tired again. So that's how it works.
So Lou, there's some buzz about, I understood that time you spent at that high school where your daughters went, about you being the vice principal of Vice. There's this buzz about you that when you actually were in Hawaii, your period of time as that headmaster was really a cover, that you were actually working for the Hawaii 5-0 Task Force, working on some of the major crime issues in the state of Hawaii. So
David, brace yourself, because that whole thing about Hawaii 5-0 was fictional. There is no state police in Hawaii. There's the feds and there are the local police, and that's it. But there's no Hawaii 5-0. Sorry.
So you didn't coin the phrase "book 'em, Dano"?
No, but I used it a couple of times. There was a police officer in Wenham, Massachusetts named Dan, and I did get to say at one point to him, some kids pranked the high school and broke into it at night and did some things, moved some desks around and stuff. And this guy, this officer named Dan, was the first on the scene. He gathered up about 6 of these kids, and he called me up because the kids said, Mr. Salza knows all about it. It's just a senior prank. And I said, no, I don't know anything about it. Book him, Dano.
So Lou, where did your nickname Luau Lou come from?
I have a nickname, Luau Lou?
Well, that's what I understand. I mean, it's on my question list.
It probably comes from the fact that when I left the assistant principal post to go to Hawaii, they gave me a luau, complete with a whole roasted pig, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, that was Luau Lou.
So we're going to put you through the Colbert lightning round now. So for those of you who are regulars of the show, you know that this is a listing of questions that Stephen Colbert started off asking some of his guests on his show. And they basically are a reflection that if you ask people these questions, you get a far better piece of insight into the person than all the insightful other questions that Will and I could ask. So Will is going to take us to the lightning round. I want to emphasize lightning. So Will, the floor is yours.
So I can't talk too long, right, Will?
We guys
gotta be quick. Gotta be quick. All right. So first question: what's the best sandwich?
Oh, hands down, Italian cold cuts. I'm talking hard salami, real mortadella, provolone cheese, very good crusty bread. Good Italian cold cuts.
That's an excellent answer. Best concert you attended?
I think one of the best concerts I've ever been to was to see the band back in a small stage in Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts. And I love the band. And Dell and I went to that concert, and it was a venue that only held about 250 people. It was really fabulous.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Trait you most value in your friends?
I guess I would have to say loyalty, friendship.
That's a good one. Apples or oranges?
Apples, definitely apples.
Yes. What do you think happens when we die?
Oh, man. Well, the Buddhists say that we die 3 times, that first time we die is when our heart stops. Second time we die is when our ashes are spread somewhere. And the third time we die is when the last person on earth says our name. What happens after that? I have no idea.
Wow. Scariest animal?
A centipede. Those long things that bite in Hawaii. They're just awful.
I bet they are. Living person you most admire?
I'd have to say it's Dell, because Dell is a person who aligns her behavior with all of her values, and I've always admired that.
That's a good answer. What's the most overrated virtue?
Overrated virtue?
I don't write the questions.
Wow. I think they're all rated okay. I don't have any sense that some of them are overrated. I know which one is the most important one, and that's courage, because all the other virtues don't matter if you don't have, a backbone. Invertebrates can't be true to their principles.
We'll accept that.
You have to have a spine.
There you go. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
I'd have to do 6. I'd have to do Dell, Sarah, Elise, Aria, Desi. So that's Dell and our 5 grandchildren.
You didn't say
All right.
You didn't say Raina.
Oh, Raina. Sorry. Yeah. Did I miss one?
Thank you, Des.
I've got 5. I've got 5 now, and now I'm 71. So my memory isn't as good as it used to be.
And now you've traumatized Raina for the rest of her life. We don't mind about that.
Thanks, Desi. Appreciate that.
It's a happy family TV show, Lou. That's all right, So, Lou, let's talk about you and UU. How did you find Unitarian Universalism?
We were raising a granddaughter, and we were looking for a place, a spiritual home for her that wasn't the Catholic Church. Dell was a non-practicing, her background is Jewish, but she didn't practice that. So, there was the UU Church, and we went down for a few services and really liked it. And then we got involved. Dell started, teaching RE. We started going to services there. And so we went for a lease, but we stayed for the people that we met there, and we stayed for the commitment that UUs make, not only to build a community inside the church, where you can have a spiritual home, and nobody tells you what, there's no creed. As Randy Partain said the other day, we have a covenant to be with one another, but also to look outward. And to try to improve what's going on in the community in Northeast Ohio. And I really like that a lot.
So how did you first start getting involved in stuff at First U? And then now at UUCC, how did you first get
involved? The first thing I got involved with was the men's group. And I've got to say that I really love being in the men's group, and I love those guys. That's really important, and I've been doing that the longest. I tend to be a very critical and judgmental person, and sometimes I've been known to complain about organizations when I think they're not operating in the most efficient way they can. And I was having a conversation with Shane Millett one time about now that I was retired, what I think about getting on the finance committee and maybe getting involved in stewardship and so forth. And he convinced me that if I was going to complain and be judgmental, I had to work harder. So I got involved in those committees, and I really liked that work. And of course, I got involved in search to try to find our next called minister. And that meant that I was working for Donna Arrington, I was working for Mark Weber, Lori Albright, Mike Miller, Meg Palkin. They kept me really busy, and this is why my hair got so gray and so long so fast.
When you said you were going to join the finance committee, before you joined, Shane came to me and said, "Hey, this guy with an abacus came up to me and asked me about."
So, all you need is an abacus and 10 fingers. What else do you need?
So, by the way, first of all, congratulations on you and the rest of the team identifying a candidate who the congregation really supports, by the way. And I want to go back to a year ago when you were first named one of the congregation's most trusted congregants, which of course led to you being named to this task force. So when you were named one of the most trusted congregants, were you thinking, yeah, I can accept that? Or were you thinking, no, don't you people know what I'm really like? I mean, how'd you react?
I was shocked. I was convinced that Carol had the wrong person, that they really meant Dell. And, I had no idea where that was coming from. I really didn't. But I also thought that one of the most important things any organization can do is to choose their next leader. And I did have quite a bit of experience as a head of school and an educator on both sides of search. So I was grateful to be able to carry water for that committee.
So what was the best part of the experience?
I think it was learning about our congregation, David. Will, I got to tell you, we did focus groups and cottage meetings. We interviewed people. We listened to kids. We listened to people who'd been in the church for 30 years. We listened to the people who came from society, those that came from First Unitarian, people who had been there for 30 years, and some been there for 30 minutes. And it was they're cool people. They're people who really want to make a difference, and they're people who are dedicated not only to their own growth spiritually, but to the sort of serene advancement of the community. Trying to deal with racism, trying to deal with poverty, just the outrageous way criminal justice works in our community. And all those things are on our list, and we're kicking ass and taking names. And I love that about our congregation. And I really appreciated learning more about the congregation and the process of this search.
So what surprised you about your fellow task force members?
I just was so amazed at how different we were, how we would come to things from different angles and different sides, and how we were yet able to come to consensus on things. We really stuck to our covenant about listening carefully and honoring the different perspectives that we brought, and that was really good for me. That was a growth experience. I'm kind of used to being, the head of school, and I'll listen to everything as a head, but then I have to make the decision. So, and in this kind of situation, it's much different. You really have to come to consensus.
Yeah.
And I had to work hard on that.
So when your team didn't identify a matching candidate in round one, how many of your fellow task force members had to sell their souls to the devil in order to come across Randy in round two?
So let me say this about round one. The UUA, no one, it's just us here, David and Will, right? No one else is listening to this. They're going to keep the secret, right?
That's right.
I got to tell you, the UUA process is arcane. It really needs to change, I think. And at the end of round one, I was really scratching my head, wondering, what was going to happen. I was skeptical about round two, and went into round two, wary of the whole thing. But once I got to hear Randy several times and got to meet him in person, I was really taken. And I thought, this is someone who really has a lot to offer us, both inside our church and as a forward-facing person representing our church and the community. Who said all's well that ends well? This ended well.
So I just want to point out to you that basically that the little secret he just told Will and me about the UUA,
yeah.
There's a second secret. The corollary is that for many of us, that's not a secret.
Will, I won't breathe a word of this.
And the second part to the question about selling your
My
soul,
lips are sealed.
second part of the question about you selling your souls to the devil, about when can we expect you to transform into a spawn of Satan, Lou?
If that happens, will you let me know?
Hey, well, we're running out of time. Why don't you ask Lou one more question, then we'll wrap up.
You want me to ask the final question?
You could ask about stewardship.
All right. So, as we know, you're very involved in the church. You have co-chaired the stewardship campaign this year and have been involved with the Men's Covenant Group and the Permaculture Garden. What exactly appealed to you about these activities?
Well, stewardship, raising money is something people have a hard time with. And I confess, I used to have a kind of a jaundiced view of the whole enterprise of raising money and philanthropy and so forth. But, Lynn Twist wrote a book called The Soul of Money, which I highly recommend. And, in it, she says that money makes a good servant, but a poor master. And there isn't a single problem I can think of, and I would challenge anyone to try to think of a problem that money doesn't make a little bit easier to solve. And, the other thing Lynn Twist said is that a lot of people, UUs in particular, I think, spend a lot of time scratching their heads wondering about life's big unanswered questions. But I think we should probably spend more time thinking about life's unquestioned answers. If you think about education and you think about what I said about memorization, grades, high stakes tests, and homework, those are unquestioned educational answers. And they're wrong. They're just wrong. And when it comes to money, people have an attitude that everything is scarce. And I think we have to approach things with an attitude of abundance and try to make our checkbooks line up with our values and our principles. And I think that's what the job of stewardship is. It isn't so much raising money, we have to do that, but it's reminding people that their priorities are written in the ledger in their checkbook. And let's make the principles of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland a priority of ours.
Thanks, Lou. One last question for you before we go to break. So, Lou, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Well, I don't like this question, but I think if I could have a wish, it would be that my connective tissue, that is my knees, my hips, and my ankles, would feel more like they felt when I was 30 than they feel right now. Is that a superpower? I don't know. The only superpower I really know about is optimism and hope. And I'm going to hold on to those as long as I can.
All right. Well, okay, gang. We're going to
properly working joints and optimism. Great superpowers.
Or maybe Jason.
Thanks, Will. You put that in a nice package.
Maybe he wants to smoke his joint easy. I'll give him optimism, but never mind. Okay, gang. We're going to take a brief break now so we can get your questions for Lou organized. If you have a question to ask Lou, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and ask it. Don't use the chat button, okay? We'll get things organized for you to ask your questions when we return. But first, our mid-show break with the song The Wait by the group that Lou referenced before, the band. See you in a few.
Woohoo!
I picked up my bag, I went looking for a place to hide. When I saw Carmen and the devil walking side by side, I said, hey Carmen, come on, let's go downtown. She said, I gotta go, but my friend can stick around. said, do me a favor, son, won't you stay and keep Annalie company? Take a load off Fanny, take a load free, take a load off Fanny, and you put the load right on me.
Crazy Chester followed me and he caught me in the fall. He said, I will fix your rat if you take Jack, my dog. I said, wait a minute, Chester, you know I'm a peaceful man. He said, that's okay, boy, won't you feed me when you can?
Yeah, take a load off Fanny, take a load free, take a load off Fanny, and you put the load right on me. Get your cannonball now to take me down the line. My bag is sinking low, and I do believe it's time to get back to Miss Fanny. You know she's the only one who sent me here with her regards for everyone. Take a load off Fanny, take a load free, take a load off Fanny, and you put the load right on me.
That was The Wait by the band. Yes, for those of you who are not familiar with them, their name is The Band. That song was selected for us by our special guest, Lou Salza, who you heard talk about the band earlier on. A couple of little mini notes for you. They were originally Bob Dylan's backing band until they released the album Music from Big Pink in 1968. The song that includes this song we just heard, that's the best known song which we just played. And by the way, in case you don't know the band at all, that album, Music from Big Pink, is in the top 100 albums of all time, according to Rolling Stone magazine. So there you go. So Lou, enough background stuff. Ready to take a couple of questions from the audience?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so your first question is from Mary Ellen McNulty. Mary Ellen?
Sorry, I just got unmuted. Hi. Hi, Lou.
Hi, Mary Ellen.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
I am so envious of you. I'm going to see the grandkids at the end of June.
Yes, it's great.
So envious. Okay, so I am so excited about you and the search committee bringing us Randy. Well done.
Thank you.
I know you went through hell to do it, but well done. But
okay.
I'm interested in whether you can tell us anything about Randy, because you guys know him in a different way than we all did, that maybe we didn't learn about him during candidating week. Not anything that you're not supposed to say, I know that. But just no.
Well, I don't know if I know anything that that we haven't had revealed to us in this amazing candidating week that we've had. What I think people saw in Randy was somebody who was really comfortable developing relationships with folks. That's his main thing is that he's into building relationship, and he wants to make sure that we all stay in right relationship with one another. And he makes the point that other religious organizations have a creed that everyone has to follow. That the word comes down on high and then you have to do this. But that in UU land, we have a covenant with one another. And that requires that we stay in some kind of right relationship with everybody. And Randy, what we learned in the process of interviewing him and interviewing people who knew him, checking his references, so to speak, was that he doesn't give up on people. He really takes his obligation about relationship seriously, and he's very skilled at making those relationships strong. The other thing that some people may not know is that he developed a course, a 10-week course in helping people with their own spiritual growth, just becoming stronger. And I hope he gets to do that course with us at some point in his tenure.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
He also seems to have a level of lightness about him at times where he just enjoys life. And that's a lovely thing to be around.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm glad you said that, Mary Ellen, because it's kind of like the importance of taking your work seriously, but not yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
And, I think he's got that. I think you're right about that.
And that was lovely to be around.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Well, like I said, I just carried the water for that committee.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Our next question, Lou, comes to you from Allison Bastian. Allison, you're on with Lou.
Okay. Hi, Lou. Nice to see you. So my question is, when you met Dell, did you just know that you were going to marry her? You just have a feeling?
Well, when I first met her, I was in the 7th grade. I mean, I didn't really meet her. I just, looked at her. And what I admired about her was that she could talk to teachers. And at that time, I was just trying to avoid every teacher I came across, and I was very unsuccessful at it because I was usually in trouble by the end of every day. But at some point when I was in high school and first year of college, I realized that Dell was the person that I wanted to be with. It took me a while to convince her of that.
I'm glad you stuck with it because you guys are a great couple.
Thank you. Yeah. She's an amazing person.
So Lou, would Dell tell the same story you just told? Would her story have some modifications to it?
Well, you'll have to have her on, and I'll be in the audience listening. But I will say that if I did not learn how to play the guitar, and I did not learn, how to, handle myself with song, I don't think I would have ever had a chance at getting her attention. So, and I think she would probably agree with that.
So she made you a better person, huh?
Absolutely. I came from a family that was very prejudiced, Italian, Catholic, conservative. And one of the first arguments Dell and I got into was about Boston busing and, the local politics of Boston. And I was on the wrong side of that conversation. In fact, in order to get her to talk to me, she was trying to sell tickets to a SNCC benefit, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at the time. And my friend and I were standing together, and she was talking to this kid, Jim. She wasn't talking to me, but I wanted her to talk to me. So I turned to Jim and I said, "You got to be careful about those SNCC guys." He said, they're very militant. Martin Luther King doesn't even like Stokely Carmichael and SNCC. And Dell turned right to me and started arguing with me. And I thought, yes, she is talking to me. And we argued. I walked her home. We argued all the way. And we've been arguing ever since, and it's always improved me. It's because she wins the arguments eventually.
That's so neat. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. That's our last question for this evening, gang. So thanks, Lou. We have no comments from the audience to read tonight. So for future shows, if you have any comments or questions to share, please send them to Zoom-In, ZOOMIN, at uucleveland.org. Again, that is Zoom-In at uucleveland.org. Lou, thanks so much for being our guest tonight. You were terrific, as we expected you to be, so thanks so much. Will, how about our next show?
All right, people. So our next show will be on the 28th of June with special guest Joanne Orr. Joanne is a very long-term member of our congregation, first with First U and now with UUCC. Her stories and observations about our evolving congregation will be worth the price of admission. Granted, there is no price of admission. This is a free show. In their own right, particularly given the wide range of activities she has been involved in and over the years. But beyond that, Joan is a widely traveled person, and we're sure to explore her travels around the world and the universe. So join us in 2 weeks when Joe visits our show and chats with David and co-host Claudia Victor. And of course, you won't want to miss the Jack Ullman comedy moment. I mean, who would miss that? That's a sin. Join them all on June 28th on their next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live.
Hey, thanks guys. And Will, thanks for keeping David in check tonight. I really appreciated that.
No problem. Whenever,
Okay,
when Mary Ellen can't keep him in check, I will.
Show, gang. A big round of applause to Carol Gay, our producer. As I say each show, my co-host and I do the easy stuff. Carol has to make sure that things actually happen. So thank you, Carol. And a reminder, if you'd like to catch up with your fellow congregants after the show, just stay right here for a chance to chat with your fellow UUs. Carol will get you squared away following our wrap-up music. Speaking of which, as I mentioned before, we're going to leave it tonight with a Jack Ullman song selection. The song is called Walk Away from Love by David Ruffin, who is the original lead singer for The Temptations. So we're looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for the next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live. Lou and Will, say goodnight to our audience.
Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
It's not that I don't love you. You know how much I do. And it's not that I found someone to take the place of you. that I don't love you. You know how much I do. And it's not that I found someone to take the place of you. It's just the fear that builds within me every time you touch my hand. And a dread that shakes my body that even I don't understand. So I'm leaving. It's time to play it smart. I'm gonna walk away from love. Before love breaks my Ooh, you're clinging to me tighter than you ever have before. I don't understand it. But I know it's gonna take everything I've got to keep walking out the door. But those arms you got around me will let me go someday. And I'd rather leave you holding on than pushing me away. So leave it. Yes, I am. It's time to start. I'm gonna walk away from love. Before love breaks my So leave it. Yes, I am. It's time to start. I'm going away from love. Before love breaks my Oh, baby. It's not that I don't love you. You know how much I do. Oh, baby. I'm leaving, baby. It's time to play the fly. Oh, don't break my heart. Oh, walk away, baby.